Hi everyone and welcome to Cooper's Literacy Toolbox. Today we will be talking about annotations. Our learning targets for today are to establish a common language and terms that we can use for annotating across contents and to examine various examples of how to annotate in all classes.
First, we invite you to reflect on what annotating is. We are defining it as a way a reader demonstrates their active reading and interacts with the text through writing notes, commenting or critiquing, and questioning what is read. When making notes, students should look for a purpose stated by the teacher, such as reading for the main idea, analyzing for evidence to support a DBQ, or skimming for an answer in a science lab book. They can also make connections with the text to things that have previously read or connections to their own life. A student should comment or critique what they are reading. It's okay for a student to disagree with what they are reading. And for questioning, students should write questions they have in the margins to mark parts that are confusing or something they would like to know more about.
Annotating is not simply highlighting the whole page, even though that is a common middle school practice, and it is not only using symbols. Students should be highlighting information and writing a comment with it. Students can use symbols to mark the text, such as an exclamation point for things that were interesting, or a question mark for something they are confused about. But they should also be writing a comment with that symbol to show their active reading. Ideas for what to have students annotate for include connections they may have, questions that come up as they are reading, unknown or content-specific vocabulary words, main ideas and key themes, and any specific ideas or look-fors that you set for them.
Here is an example of how annotating can be used in English. Students can write directly on the paper when annotating a poem, or students can write on Post-it notes and place them in the book if they do not or cannot write in the text. In history, we work on several performance assessments throughout the year. The assessment revolves around a central historical question, which allows the students to think like a historian and put their knowledge in action while using primary sources. As most of us know, many of the sources are difficult to read as they do not use current vocabulary. You can see two examples, one from history, answering the question who is responsible for the Battle of Little Bighorn, and how other form of civics using the preamble. Students can define unknown vocabulary such as posterity and or highlight the source as in the interview with the Cheyenne Indian, and highlight important words which help provide clues to the historical questions. Math teachers use annotations when working on word problems. There are several strategies available to help students, and not one strategy is best. Only you know which strategy will work with the class you have. However, again, as we are trying to establish common language across contents, in math, students can annotate by placing boxes around the question, underlining important information, circling vocabulary needed to answer the question, and crossing out any irrelevant information. Science is very similar to math. There are questions students need to answer when completing lab work. Many students can benefit by annotating with boxing the question and defining any vocabulary needed to help for the lab. As seen in this example, the students needed two words defined, solute and solvent, as seen in the question number 1. What they did then is they rewrote the question using that defined vocabulary.
When it comes to vocabulary, it is important that we all keep in mind that some words are specific to our contents, and students may need explicit instruction and explanation of what that word means and how it relates to what they are learning. Vocabulary instruction is something that works with all levels of students. However, it is crucial for students that struggle with language, such as ESOL or SPED students. Ideas for vocabulary instruction would be to use a Freyer model shown here, online programs such as Quizlet or flashcard machine, and brief instruction on root words, prefixes, and suffixes. Links are provided here for additional resources. For health, this is an article about sleep and chronic disease. Students can annotate the headings to define what they know about each of those topics. The word chronic could also be a word that is annotated and defined prior to reading.
In Spanish, students could color code the differences between bien and bien. The highlighters would help students differentiate between which word to use in a sentence. Also, students annotated the words of the sentence that they already knew. For visual arts classes such as journalism, annotating can be used for students to analyze sources to determine credibility. Students could participate in a tabletop blog to give feedback to their peers about the validity of a specific source.
When it comes to family and consumer science, students can again use highlighters to annotate and note the different ingredients that are needed for a recipe. In this case, the word need would be helpful to define prior to cooking for those students who may be unclear of what that vocab term means. We hope that this video reinforced what you were already doing in your classrooms, but framed it through a common lens so we are able to use similar wording and consistent practice when working with students. The last step is to click on this link to complete the acknowledgement form. Thank you.